Hi everyone, and welcome to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols. Well, up first we've got some wonderful officers here that are going to talk about some important issues. Thank you so much for being on the show. So who wants to start here? We're going to talk about maybe fireworks first, because of course it's that time of year. Everybody's out wanting to shoot off some fireworks, but we've got some rules that we need to follow.
Yes, you do have some rules you need to follow with inside the city, which is you can't possess them, you can't shoot them off, you can't sell them, you can't distribute them or anything like that. It's
zero tolerance. You
yes.
don't want to see Officer Graham out there like getting upset at you. So you can buy them in the county and shoot them in the county. Shoot them off in the county. Is that right?
I don't know
or
about the
am I wrong
county's
about
law.
that?
I'm not familiar with what the county's laws are.
So in the city, it's just a big no-no.
I would just suggest, there's firework displays, all over that other municipalities will put on. They have some out at South Holston Lake, and you can enjoy them there.
That's very, very good advice. And not to mention that they can be really dangerous as well.
Especially inside the city, because everybody's so close together that if you shoot them off, they can be hitting somebody else's house or something like that, and you don't want to start a fire on accident or anything like that.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Well,
and
thank you.
also to add with that,
yes.
A lot of people have pets, and when you are in close proximity as such, they really disrupt a lot of pets. Some pets, they're okay with it, a lot are not, and the bad thing about that, they will do anything they can to escape. We get so many during 4th of July and thunderstorms and things of that nature, because they get so freaked out they'll hurt themselves getting under or over a fence, breaking their tethers, pulling their heads out of their collars. I mean, it's really disruptive to pets. And
do you have any good tips for people out there? So if you are going to go out to South Holston and watch the fireworks,
absolutely,
the best thing to do with your pets?
Do everything you can to make your pet comfortable. If they can be brought inside, that of course is the better thing. It does muffle it at least somewhat, and they are more secure feeling in that circumstance. Outside, make sure they're as comfortable as possible. Even putting an extra blanket, an extra bed, any kind of thing that gives them a little bit more comfort sometimes will help. And if there are those that are just really, really devastated by it, ask your vet, talk with your vet. They do have some options for you in that case too.
Absolutely. Thanks. That's great advice. And you mentioned the tethered, and we do have a new ordinance about that. Will you talk about that?
Yes. Between the hours of 10 at night and 6 in the morning, they are not allowed to be tethered. If for some reason you can't abide by that time frame, you can request a permit. Actually, you fill one out to get approved. You have to pick a different time frame during that day that they are off tether, just as long as it's an 8-hour period, sometime in that 24-hour period that they're not going to be tethered. That, of course, it makes sense to me. I don't understand, I know in my particular profession, there are dogs that need to be tethered. It's for their safety. Sometimes they're very protective, so it's also other safety issues. And I realize some need to be tethered. As long as they do it correctly, that's not a problem. Their tether has to be at least 12 feet in length, have swivels on both ends, be attached in a manner that it can't get tangled on anything, and that type of thing. But there's a period they need to be off that tether, and it's for their health and well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But if you can't do the overnight, then you can file for a permit to do it at a different time frame of the day.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing all that.
Absolutely.
And since we're also talking safety, of course it's starting to heat up out there. We should talk about some summer safety tips and just not, leaving your animals in the car or children in the car, heaven forbid.
Yeah, leaving children in the car, even on fairly what we would consider a cool day, like 70 degrees, it can really heat up in the car, especially if it's out in the sun. So, both children and animals are in danger of hyperthermia. So a few things you want to do because you can, with people's lifestyles now, they're so busy and stuff, we've had times that people have made honest mistakes and left their kids in the car when they've rushed in to go to work or something like that, and they forgot to drop it off at daycare. So, a good idea is to put something in the back seat that you're going to have to grab to go into work, and that way you're looking in the back seat and checking for that child. And then even when you're at the house, you want to kind of discourage your kids from playing in the car or and keeping your doors locked so they don't get in the car and overheat that way.
And just make sure everybody's drinking lots of water and lots of fresh
Absolutely.
water for our pets out there too.
On the pet, I've run across this several times where someone would have a doctor's appointment or run in Walmart. They don't expect to be in there the length of time they are. The best thing is leave your animal at home. There's no reason in that high heat to really be transporting your dog. I mean, if you had car trouble or something to that effect, you've still got that animal you have to deal with and keep cooled down, and that's a lot harder when you're out on asphalt and things where a car would be. Also, if you have to, get an extra set of keys so you can actually leave the car running with the air on. Make sure put your emergency brake on, because animals can also get to things and try to drive the car.
Drive down Volunteer Parkway.
So in that circumstance, if that's what you have to do, and that's the best way to do it, make sure you do it as safe as possible.
Yeah, I think we're just, especially living through COVID, and now we're out and about a little bit more. So I think there's a sense I've noticed of excitement and, feeling a little bit more normal. So I think, it's just these little safety tips are good reminders for everyone, because, we haven't really been living a more normal lifestyle for quite some time. So just maybe trying to take that deep breath and a pause, and then, thinking through what your day is going to look like, and, so that makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks you two for being on. This was a great treat for us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols. Well, now it's time for one of our special segments, and today we're talking about water quality. So water customers in Bristol, Tennessee will soon receive a water quality report in the mail that will provide detailed information about how the water from South Holston River is treated by the city to meet and exceed all drinking water standards before it's delivered to more than 13,000 businesses and households. Will Witcher and Mark Quickle are here to tell us more. Here they are.
Where we're standing right now is what we call the flash mix pit. It is the first site of treatment once the water leaves the raw intake. We have our coagulant and our first dose of bleach coming in the flash mix pit. This is where we're trying to agitate the water, mix it up, disturb it as much as possible in order for the coagulant to bind with any dirt or any other particles that are in the water. And that will then form a precipitate called flock, which then as it travels across the settling basin will fall out. And then the bleach obviously is used for cleaning the water, killing any microorganisms that might be growing in the water. The process we're watching is a filter backwash. We try and get about 120 hours out of each filter, depending on how much dirt has been passed through, how much water has gone through. As the filter gets older in hours, longer in hours, the loss of head and turbidity often begin to increase. And in order to meet EPA guidelines, TDEC guidelines, we have to perform a backwash, and that's simply passing clean water through the filter in reverse to remove any contaminants, dirt, bacteria, other microorganisms that have been collected over the filter's life out of the filter into a waste stream in order to put the filter back online and have it clean and as good as new. Here we're in the lab. We've got faucets at different stages of the treatment process, anywhere from raw water straight from the river all the way through the finished process. And what we do is we run bi-hourly labs where we're checking for turbidity, pH, and chlorine. And that's just to give us an idea, making sure that we're, one, treating the water correctly. There hasn't been any issues. Lots of times in the summer, you will see the chlorine level drop out as the sun gets up midday, heat intensifies, and it tends to degrade the chlorine in the water quicker than in the wintertime. So typically we like to keep an eye on that, and if we have to raise chlorine levels, this allows us to do that and not go too far over or get too far behind in the treatment process. Chlorine is used to disinfect the water. Because it's a river system, there's fish and invertebrates and birds and everything else in the wild that comes to drink it or live in it. There are bacteria and other microorganisms. So one of the steps to eliminate those and make the water safe to drink is the addition of chlorine. We are a two-phase. We have a pre-treatment for chlorine and a post-treatment for chlorine. So here is, we're in our control room, and this shows us, we can view everything going on from where the water comes in to the plant, all the way through our distribution system to the pump stations and tanks, and everywhere in between. We monitor in here 24/7. We're watching pumps at the river pump the water up here, all the way to the chemicals being added. We can control what pump stations are on in order to maintain pressure and water in the system going to some of our higher pressure zone tanks. All the processes that we've seen as far as the flash mix, the flocculators, the filters, all of those processes are captured here and relayed to us real time in this room, so we know if there's an issue in the system or here at the plant, down at the river. It'll alert us, flash up an alarm telling us a pump's been shut off or a tank's getting low or too high, so we can make a change to whatever the process is in order to correct that action. For what we pump in a given day, it varies based on season. The range is probably 5.5 million to 6.5 million gallons per day. Like I said, in the summertime, we see that demand go up. You've got your hot weather, people filling pools, watering their yards, their gardens. So those numbers go up. And then again, in the wintertime, you see a little bit of an increase, especially in the really cold wintertime months. People will often run their faucets to keep lines from freezing, so that'll increase our demand. And then in the spring and fall, you've got more of milder temperatures, typically more rain, so you're not watering gardens, don't have to worry about flowers and that kind of thing. So demand tends to dip in those months.
The building that we are looking at now is the high service pump building, which is basically where the treated water is taken to the clear well. and then pumped through the high service pumps into the system where it fills tanks and supplies water to our customers. We have 3 pumps. Each pump is 400, 500, and 600 horsepower, and we typically cycle between the 500 and 600 horsepower pump, just depending on system demands. And then the control center for each of the pumps was recently completely overhauled. We received an EDA grant in the amount of about $800,000, and we were able to upgrade all of the electrical and control systems for the pumps, which was completed last year. And that was a big deal for us because it gives us reliability in our pumping system. It replaced 40-year-old equipment, which had basically reached the end of its service life. So it allows us to be more reliable and more consistent in our operations here at the plant. The tank behind us is our filter backwash water tank. As we just saw a few minutes ago, we saw the filter process and the filter backwash process. The tank behind us stores water that is used in that process to backwash the filter. This tank is about 250,000 gallons, and we recently had it repainted. They just finished the project this past week, so that's a vital part to our system as well. We have approximately 13,000 water customers. 4 of those are utility districts that we sell water to, so they use a much larger amount of water than most of our customers. Some of our larger customers are the hospital, Bristol Regional Medical Center, and then several of our industries and our school system, and some of the larger users such as those. We pump about 6 million gallons a day. That fluctuates over the course of a year. But when you break it down, that comes out to roughly 150 to 200 gallons of water per day per household. We are at the raw water intake on the South Holston River. If you look behind me, you can see Osceola Island and the weir. I'm sure many people are familiar with the location. We draw our water directly from the river. The water comes underneath the concrete pad I'm standing on here underneath. And over to my left here is the raw water pump building. And this is where we pump water from the river up to the water treatment plant. So this is the very beginning of our water system. This is the source of our water. We are very fortunate as a utility to have such a high quality source of water. As many of you know, the South Holston River is a world-class trout stream, and that all happens just downstream from us here. So we are at the very up end of the South Holston River right after it discharges from the South Holston Dam. And to quantify how clear our water is, the average turbidity of the water is between a 0.4 and a 1 on an average scale, which is very exceptional for most river water and source water. In fact, it's been commented that we have one of the most pure source waters in the state as far as public drinking water supply goes. And turbidity is basically a measure of how clean the water is, how the color, the clarity of the water. So 0.4 to a 1 is a very good level of turbidity, and we are fortunate. After the water goes through our treatment process, as it goes through the treatment process, we take samples and do tests on the water constantly throughout the day to make sure we're meeting the state mandated averages. And not only that, but after the water is pumped into the tanks and into the system, when it reaches your home, we also sample water at numerous places throughout our distribution system as well to make sure that the water quality still meets the state regulations once it reaches the tanks and then ultimately into your homes and businesses. So, and all of our water meets or exceeds the state mandated averages or the state mandated regulations that we are required to comply with.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and I've got 2 lovely guests on the show with us today. We've got Megan Parks and Amanda White. Thank you ladies for being with us today. And they've got a great relationship they're going to tell us all about. Who wants to start?
You want me to? Okay, great. Yeah, so we are actually partnering for the summer to do a summer training series between YW Cares and the Children's Advocacy Center. So we're here to really talk about that today, and then also the services that both of our programs offer to our community.
Well, I know you both are huge, valuable resources to us and provide so much. So let's dive right into the summer series and talk specifically about that since it's going on now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so we have had 2 trainings already, and we have 2 trainings coming up. So July 8th will be the first one after this airs. It's coming up. So identifying and reporting abuse. We're going to talk about 4 of the abuse types: physical, emotional neglect, and sexual abuse, how you can spot those. So your emotional indicators, your physical indicators, and also what to do when you do spot them, or what to do when a child does disclose abuse to you. Because everyone in Tennessee is a mandated reporter. We'll talk about where you can report, how to report, and kind of what comes next, because a lot of people wonder what comes next after I report. And then on July 21st, there'll be a Stewards of Children training, which is our child sexual abuse prevention training. So we're excited about that one. You can get CEUs for certain people, such as social workers and nurses, and it is just a great prevention training with survivor stories, statistics, experts. It's just fantastic for our community to learn how we can prevent child sexual abuse.
And are all these taking place at the YW?
They're actually virtual, so they're all, it's a whole
even
webinar
better. We're all
series.
used to that.
Yeah, exactly. We figured we would at least get through the summer that way, and it is a free opportunity, and we wanted to make it open to the whole community, right? So it's not just for professionals or people who work in that field, but we wanted it to be basic education for our community to know what to look for, because it's relevant to anybody that works with children or young adults. You know, maybe it's in your personal life or at your church, or maybe you are active in children's sports, something like that. You know, we can all be educated on this, and it's very prevalent in our area, so we're just trying to bring awareness and education for that.
That's so exciting. And so it is a summer series. So obviously it's in the midst and going and moving, but it's not too late to sign up. How do people get involved and register?
Yeah, so we have 2 more sessions. There's one on July 8th at 12 o'clock and then July 21st at 8 o'clock. And you actually go to the CAC's website. They have a training link there. You just click on that and you can register there. It's really simple and everything's free.
And then you just jump on. So I guess you need your internet working. We've got to have that going.
Yes.
And you just jump on. And are you able to ask like questions during this time as well, like during the presentation?
Yes, you are. It's just like we're there together. I think everyone is so used to Zoom these days, and that's the platform it'll be on, is Zoom. And you can be there present with your video, ask questions, and participate in the training the whole time, which is fantastic.
And how did you decide on the topics for the summer?
That's a great question.
I think that we really, like Megan said, wanted to educate the community in as many topics as possible that would kind of fit together. So we started out with the digital dangers course, because we know with school being virtual, kids got a little bit more into the digital world and using computers, and we know that's going to continue this summer. So we talked about digital safety with that, and then we also have we'll be talking about crimes against young adults with Megan's training. So that is, I'll let Megan talk to you about that just a little bit, but these trainings all go together. They all educate our community members, whether you're a professional or, just as Megan said, you're involved in children's sports, you're involved at your church, you have nieces or nephews, you have children of your own, to make our community healthier.
That's great. Yeah, so now tell us about the topic you'll be focused on.
Yeah, so actually next week we're going to be working on crimes against young adults. So through the YW Cares program, we focus on victims of crime ages 17 to 24. So when Amanda and I were trying to plan this training, we talked about what is relevant for the young folks in our community. And so we wanted to focus on the crimes that we typically see in our advocacy program. So we're going to be talking about sexual assault, dating violence, cyber crimes, human trafficking. And in honor of Pride Month, we also want to focus on issues directly related to our LGBTQ youth in our community, and how can we bring awareness to that, and how can we support them as well. These are just things that we actively see every day, and I think that's so hard to comprehend. It's very easy to say, well, it happens out there, it happens to others, it's on TV, it's maybe not here, but we're here to say that it is here. And so we really need to bring this awareness and just really surround our children and young folks. It's so important right now. So that's what we're going to do.
Oh, I'm excited, and I'm sure everyone else is. It's great to bring awareness always, and these topics, like you said, are not going away, especially in the digital world and the cyberbullying, and you just you do hear about it all the time, but you do know that it happens right next door, and it can be very scary, so it's great to be able to understand how it works and how to see the signs of it. So that's
exactly.
great.
And it's helpful that, we are able to speak directly from the service providers in the community. So, if we have children that need services, the CAC is always available. If they're 17 to 24, we're here to help them as well. So it really helps the community connect with us and also what we can provide. Because, we're here to provide services all the time. So
yeah, sometimes you drive by the buildings and you just don't even think, and that, this is a place that I can go for help.
Exactly. So we want the community to know we're here, we're active, we're ready to help. I know the world's gone through a lot of changes recently, so we really want to make sure people know we are here and we are ready to help and we're willing to do it.
That's great. Well, ladies, do you have anything that you want to add about anything else while you've got the spotlight?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I just hope people will come and take advantage of the opportunity. And absolutely, if someone has questions or anything like that as a result of the training, we're still here and we'd love to answer those. Or if someone just has a question in their own life, we're here to help with that as well.
Yes.
And do you have any of these planned for the future?
Yes, so we frequently do trainings like these together throughout the year, and as an education coordinator at the CAC, I'm available to set up these free trainings for any community group at any time. So if you wanted to do Stewards of Children or a Digital Dangers or anything like that, I can set that up and do that for any community group, maybe a group at a bank or a group at a church or maybe a group of social workers, anything like that.
That's great. That's good to know. Thank you. Well, thank you both for being on the show today. We appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.